the story of a man who saved 10%. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth and security slowly but surely, while others work their entire lives and end up with almost nothing? What if I told you there is a simple rule, so simple that anyone could follow it, yet so powerful that it could change your life forever? This is the story of a man who lived an ordinary life, but became extraordinary because of one habit: he saved 10% of everything he earned. It all began in a small town, with a young man named Daniel. Daniel came from a humble family. His parents worked hard, but money was always tight. From a young age, he heard the same sentence over and over again: "We just don't have enough." When Daniel turned 21, he got his first job at a small printing shop. His salary was modest, barely enough to cover rent, food, and transportation. Most people would have spent every cent, but Daniel remembered something his grandfather once told him: no matter how little you earn, always keep a part of it for yourself, at least 10%. At first, the idea seemed impossible. How could he save when his expenses were already high? But Daniel decided to try. On the day he received his first paycheck, he took 10% and placed it into a small envelope marked "For the Future." The first month was hard. There were moments when Daniel was tempted to open the envelope and use the money. Unexpected bills came, friends invited him out, and sales tempted him with things he thought he needed. But Daniel held firm. "This is not money to spend, this is money to grow," he told himself. Month after month, paycheck after paycheck, Daniel repeated the same routine. It didn't matter whether his income was small or a little larger, he always saved exactly 10%. And something surprising happened: Daniel began to adapt. He adjusted his spending without even noticing. The missing 10% no longer felt like a loss, it became normal. He realized a powerful truth: if you can live on 100%, you can live on 90%. 2 years passed. Daniel's envelope was replaced by a savings account, and that account was slowly growing. It wasn't a fortune yet, but for the first time in his life, he had security. When his old car broke down, he didn't panic, he simply used part of his savings and replaced it. No debt, no sleepless nights. This small safety net gave Daniel something even more valuable than money: peace of mind. He felt in control. He began to see opportunities he had once ignored. When a friend invited him to join a small business venture, he was able to invest a modest amount, money he never could have spared before. 10 years later, Daniel's life looked very different. He wasn't rich in the way movies portray wealth, but he had freedom. His savings had grown steadily, helped by compound interest and wise investments. Every 10% he saved became a building block, and together, they formed a strong financial foundation. One day, during a casual conversation, a colleague complained, "I've been working for 20 years, and I have nothing to show for it. How did you manage?" Daniel smiled and said, "I just saved 10%, every month, no matter what." The colleague laughed, thinking it was too simple to be true. But Daniel knew the secret: simplicity works, but only if you do it consistently. In his later years, Daniel began sharing his story with young people in his community. He told them about the envelope, the discipline, and the peace that came from always keeping something for himself first. He didn't talk about luxury cars or giant houses. Instead, he spoke about freedom from fear, control over your life, and the ability to help others without hurting yourself. Daniel's message was clear: wealth is not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. When Daniel passed away, he left behind more than money. He left a lesson, a simple, powerful truth that had the potential to change anyone's future. Life, as Daniel learned, doesn't always follow a smooth path. There came a time when the printing shop where he worked faced financial trouble. Orders slowed down, and one day, Daniel was called into the office. The manager looked at him with heavy eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Daniel, we have to let you go." For many people, this would have been a disaster. No job, bills piling up, and the weight of uncertainty pressing down. But Daniel had been preparing for years, quietly, patiently, without anyone noticing. He had 1 year's worth of living expenses saved. Instead of panicking, Daniel took a deep breath. He used part of his savings to survive, and another small part to learn new skills. Within months, he found a better-paying job at a publishing company. And here's the key: even in that tough time, he still saved 10%. Hard times are when saving matters the most, he reminded himself. Years later, an opportunity knocked on Daniel's door, one he never expected. A small apartment building was being sold at a low price because the owner was in a hurry to move abroad. Most people Daniel knew didn't have the cash or credit to act fast. But Daniel. He had been saving faithfully for over 15 years. With his savings and a small loan, he bought the building. It wasn't glamorous, peeling paint, old pipes, squeaky floors. But Daniel saw its potential. He spent weekends repairing it, renting out the units, and slowly turning it into a steady stream of income. That one purchase became the foundation of his financial independence. He wasn't working just to survive anymore, his money was working for him. By the time Daniel was in his 50s, people in town began to notice something. He never showed off, but he never seemed stressed about money either. He lived comfortably, gave generously to causes he cared about, and traveled when he wanted. What they didn't know was that Daniel's net worth had quietly crossed into the 7 figures. Not because he won the lottery, not because he built a flashy business, but because he followed a rule so simple, most people ignored it: save 10%, no matter what. One afternoon, a young man named Adam, fresh out of college and struggling with debt, came to Daniel for advice. "How do I get ahead? It feels like I'm drowning," Adam confessed. Daniel smiled gently and said, "When I was your age, I felt the same. But I made a decision to keep 10% of everything I earned. At first, it felt impossible, until I realized it was the only way to truly get ahead." He told Adam about the envelope, the savings account, the apartment building, and the freedom it had brought him. Adam listened, nodding slowly. "Just 10%, he asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "Because it's not just about money, it's about discipline, patience, and believing your future is worth paying for." When Daniel passed away at 78, the town gathered for his memorial. Some remembered him as a kind neighbor, others as a quiet landlord, and some as the man who always had wise words when life felt overwhelming. Among his belongings, Adam found a small, worn envelope, the same one Daniel had used for his first paycheck. Inside was a note in Daniel's handwriting: "The first 10% is for your future self. Protect it. Grow it. Never spend it." Adam held the note and realized something powerful: Daniel's life wasn't defined by luck or big risks, it was defined by steady, disciplined action. And that action had given him a life free from the chains of financial fear. So now, the question is for you. Will you take the first step today? Because here's the truth: if you start saving 10% now, in 10 years, you'll thank yourself, and in 20 years, you might not even recognize the freedom you'll have. Small habits build big futures. Start with your next paycheck. Your future self is waiting.